Hi, everyone. Welcome to Scouting for Growth, the go-to podcast where we delve into the world of corporate startup collaboration and partnership, as well as growth strategies deployed by corporate and institutional investors, as well as those who support them. In today's episode, we have the honor of welcoming Dr. Melissa Sassi, with whom we will be exploring the dynamic world of technology, entrepreneurship, and social impact. Melissa has a wealth of global experience, having visited 60 countries. Melissa brings direct exposure to the local challenges and opportunities for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Her doctoral thesis actually focused on the critical role of digital inclusion in solving the SDGs, highlighting the transformative power of bridging the digital divide. Melissa's passion for driving societal change led her to leave BigTech and become an entrepreneur. She is the CEO and co-founder of Skills Hustle, a pre-seed edtech company committed to closing the skills gap and transforming learners into earners. The Skills Hustles platform takes an innovative approach, offering gamified, interactive, and practical modules that engage learners on a deeper level. With a focus on community building, the platform provides access to thought leaders, networking opportunities, and real-world challenges such as innovation challenges and hackathons, enabling learners to develop practical skills and solve real business challenges. Notably, Melissa's entrepreneurial journey extends beyond Skills Hustle, actually. She served as the founder and global head of the IBM Hyper Protect Accelerator, where she spearheaded actually startup enablement in over 50 countries across various sectors, including fintech, health tech, insurtech, edtech, and music tech, among the few. Her focus was on increasing access to capital, customer, market, partner, staff, and mentorship as well. She's also worked even with Timberland startups, Beat Club, adding a touch of sparkle to her impressive portfolio. I have to add as well that Melissa, during 5 years, worked for Microsoft. She served as an impact investor, focusing on internet and energy success and teaching digital skills to newly connected individuals. In addition to her professional achievement, Melissa founded Mentor Nations, a youth-led nonprofit that has empowered tens of thousands of young change makers, actually across 12 countries, by teaching them coding skills. A remarkable contribution were recognized with 3 nominations for UN awards, showcasing the tangible impact of her work. Melissa's wealth of knowledge and experience has made her a sought-after speaker and workshop facilitator. She has delivered over 400 talks and workshops at renowned institutions such as academia, the United Nations, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, Microsoft, IBM, and Harvard. So I will say, join us on this episode of Scouting for Growth as Dr. Melissa Sassi shares her insights, experience, and innovative ideas in leveraging technology and education to drive societal impact and foster sustainable growth. I want you to get ready to be inspired by her passion and expertise. Melissa is actually contagious. She's awesome, and you will fall in love with her as you listen to her as an entrepreneur and how she's bringing digital literacy to market that needs it, as well as creating positive change. Now, if you like this podcast, don't forget forget to subscribe to it, rate it, and download it. And please leave also a commentary down below and reach out to me if you actually have any questions or ideas for future podcasts. So without further ado, let's jump right into the conversation with our remarkable guest, Dr. Melissa Sassi. Hi, Melissa. It's a pleasure to have you with us on Scouting for Growth today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm joining you from Mexico. Normally, I am based out of Texas, and thank you again.
Well, thank you for accepting the invitation. So we are with Dr. Melissa Sassi, and you have so many accolades behind your name, Melissa. So let's go through some intro, your path to success and to venturing as well.
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I had someone today ask me, like, well, how do I do your elevator pitch? You've done so many different things, and you've had kind of like reinventions throughout your life. Like, how do I introduce you? I feel like if I do, I'm gonna not do it justice. And it kind of tickles me because I grew up in a small town in Missouri, so in the United States, the center of the U.S. My parents didn't go to college. My mother had 3 kids by the time she was 16, not 13. Ooh, still young, but not that young. Nobody really talks to me about college. But we're not going to talk about those high school days. I spent the last 10 years of my life of my career working in tech between Microsoft and IBM. Both of those, let's say major roles included, and I've always built my own jobs. I've always created my own jobs. So I never really flowed into the right career progression plan that says you do this, you do these steps, and then you go here. So I was always a bit of an outlier coloring out of this outside the lines and making people uncomfortable, hopefully in a good way. But I ran startup accelerators that I, created, with the team. So they were all kind of brand new things. At Microsoft, it was all about building internet and energy access solutions around the world, and then bringing digital skills to the newly connected. We did invest in kind of enabling ecosystems like, fintech, edtech, that sort of thing. But it was really about how do we get people connected so they can take advantage of the amazing, fintech tools that are out there that they can create economic opportunity, get an education, that sort of thing. At IBM, I focused on data protection, privacy, and security, so heavily regulated industries, fintech, health tech, insurtech. I'm going to share my claims to fame on both of those, give you a couple more insights, and then we'll, as most people know, I can go on and on about my career. So, claim to fame at IBM. I ran this accelerator. One day I'm sitting there and I get this text. Holy, I don't know if I can curse on this show, so I'll just say holy. You fill in you fill in the blank. Timbaland just applied to your program, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like Grammy award-winning music producer guy who works with Timbaland? What the hell is he doing applying to my program? Doesn't he just have his people come and see my people, and then it just happens? So I looked, sure enough, he's got this startup called Beat Club. It's all about democratizing access to the music industry. There's a kind of fintech component in there, like everything, because everyone is a fintech these days. Really exciting for me. I had him on my podcast 3 times. We wore matching sweatshirts, very fun and cool. At Microsoft, I can say that one of our partners that we worked with for a very long time, they connected the Dalai Lama to the internet. So I will not say that the Dalai Lama knows me. He has no idea I exist. I am a hidden figure. That's okay, but apparently the world is more mindful because of our internet connection. So a couple of claims to fame.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, a little bit about my career. I think in the past, and I'll make the rest quick. But I currently am running a venture studio with my partner, and we'll talk more about what that is and what that means later. Did a couple stints on Wall Street and have my own nonprofit. Taught tens and thousands of kids to code in 12 countries, and yes, I sleep.
Well, people say, when to me as well, when do you sleep, Sabine? So, well, I do sleep 8 hours a night, but actually I love doing things, and my mind is for sure busy like yours. I want to solve problems, and if I did nothing, I think I would just get bored. So
me, I get anxious. Right? Like I literally get anxious and feel like, and I don't know where this comes from. Over the years, I think it's like this Protestant work ethic thing, even though my parents are not Protestant. It was like I had it ingrained in my soul that I needed to work to be productive, to be independent, to be able to take care of myself. And from hard work comes, outcomes in life. And that may be financial in nature, it may be, experiences, but you got to work to achieve. And it's been ingrained so much in my soul. And maybe you combine that with ADHD. I physically feel sick if I'm not like working, producing, doing something. I feel anxious, and I feel empty, like I don't matter anymore. I'm sure there's a disorder, associated with that. But if there is, I have that personality disorder.
So before going into all the businesses you have on your LinkedIn profile, because I've seen quite a few, I would want to understand, what got you at the intersection of technology, education, economic development, social impact, startups, and sustainability. How did you decide to actually bring those different jobs together? Because I do believe that the blurred lines existing, you mentioned just now that every company will be a fintech. Yes, I agree with that as well. But how you connect all those dots?
Yeah, so I'm going to try to make this story as short as possible, because I'm good at going down a rabbit hole. So Sabine should, tap my virtual shoulder if I need to speed up anywhere, because I'm known for this. And I try to be cognizant. So this is a little bit about something super deeply personal about, me and my story. We all have an origin story that fires us, that fuels us, that, creates that passion to make us do what we do, to make us recognize that this is the work I was born to do. I wake up in the morning and it doesn't feel like work. It's like, I gotta do the thing, whatever that thing is. Sometimes we don't find it until later on in life, like me. So about 10 years ago, and I should kind of probably kind of go back in time a little bit. I have 3 children, Yumna, Zahran, and Zahra, Arabic names. When I was, at work on a business trip one day, and my ex-husband and I were going through a divorce. We had traumatic kind of stuff. We're not going to get into the nooks and crannies of that. Ain't fun. But he went and picked my kids up from school without my knowledge, and put them on a plane, took them to his country. And, so my kids and I became, highly aware of what this parental kidnapping, phrase is and what it means. Because of the nature of political environment and the legal structure and the relationships between the U.S. and Tunisia, really hard. You're talking about the country that sparked the Arab Spring. This was before that. This was during the Ben Ali regime. I couldn't do anything. I was stuck, and I, at that time, was a woman without power, a woman without clout, a woman without a network. I just, at that time, came in, I did my work, I looked after my family, and I wasn't really thinking about change the world. I'm a woman on a mission. It was like, I've got to take care of my family, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I work hard, I do my best. One day, my daughter, by the way, I knew where they were. They were safe and healthy. They just weren't with me. I could go visit them, but only in the family home. I want to make sure that's clear. So I did not lose touch. One day, my daughter says to me that she was, learning Microsoft is their accent. She kind of speaks with a little bit of a, French accent. And she said, Mommy, I'm learning. Right? Yeah, Microsoft. You're much better than me. But yeah. And so I was working at Microsoft at the time. And I realized she didn't have access to a computer in her classroom. Well, they had her own. I mean, they had one. They shared it across 40 kids, and I realized there's no way that she's going to be prepared, for the future. She will not be part of the digital economy. She will not be prepared for the future of work. She needs to be learning these skills right now. And, yeah, I can get her all the devices at home. That's great. But what about the other kids in her classroom? So I set on this mission to get, computers for the class. That was my focus. Computers, class, that's it. As I started looking, I just started realizing the big role that access to tech, access to skills, access to the internet, all these different things, what role they play, including affordability, what role they play in driving outcomes, healthcare outcomes, education outcomes, economic outcomes, getting a job, doing a resume, like everything we have and do centers around tech. I realized half the world wasn't connected to the internet, and I realized that the world is made up of a bunch of haves and have-nots, and what can I do to change that? And again, I worked at Microsoft. Of course I can change that. I ended up lobbying and begging and pleading and putting myself over the coals and learning a lot and failing sometimes to end up getting 400 laptops from Microsoft and HP. We sent them to 20 schools across the country. You can't have schools without skills. So I took 3 weeks off from work, and me and some engineers from one of the local universities jumped in a car and started teaching kids to code all in every single region around the country. We were on the Libyan border, the Algerian border. We were in the Sahara. We came back, started a company. I was doing that as my side shimmy. And I realized that it helped me compartmentalize my pain. I realized that it helped make the world a better place. You know what else it did? It gave me power and clout in that country that enabled me to have a voice, showed my kids how you get a voice. Once I started doing that, and I started getting asked to join, radio shows and TV shows with my team and stuff like that, because we started getting some funding. We started a nonprofit that got funding from the US government, a few $100,000 every year. We always met with the ambassador. I ended up being able to spend the summers with my kids on my own. I was very respectful of, an agreement that me and their father had made to allow them to choose when they're old enough to choose, and not pressure them to come back with me. It was hard, but I can say now I've got one daughter back with me. She's 21. She's studying cybersecurity.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I have one who's just finishing his back exam, and he's planning to study business and either computer science or cybersecurity. He's 18. And then Yomna is 16. Her father, for the first time in 15 years, is allowing her to come to the United States for the summer. So we're in the process of getting their passports. So my daughter has not seen, none of them, Zahra and Zahran, Zahran and Yumna, the youngest two, haven't seen this country since they were small children, when they were kidnapped from their school in Pennsylvania.
Oh gosh, what an amazing story. And at the same time, it's about also recognizing it's not always easy.
Life is not easy at all,
Right? We often think, we have those celebrity stars, I call them, and people think you can just come out of bed and just do things. It's not. And people have to work really hard to achieve outcome. But what I found even more impressive, and I'm still processing the story, Melissa, is your dedication to your family, but also to others, and realizing there was a major problem around digitization and learning the skills of the future. And 2 of your kids are now able to change our world, right? And protect us.
I know. I mean, I will tell you, there's a lot of emotional trauma. My daughter, now that she's here, she's been here for almost 2 years. She's really struggling. She didn't grow up here, so she's not thinking like an American girl. She doesn't necessarily understand, the American girl. She doesn't understand the college experience. And there's certain and because her father was very strict, she didn't have access to certain things that a 21-year-old here would. And so her just way of thinking and way of doing is probably equivalent to, a girl who might be 16 or 17 from a smarts, intelligence perspective, spot on. But when it comes to like critical thinking, problem solving, and doing it on her own, we're dealing with some developmental challenges, but she knows it. She's working on it, and she
Awareness is
recognizes,
important.
the trauma that she went through, and that's what fueled it. It's not about is she smart, is she not? It's just she's got to develop her skills.
So looking at those stories, right? I mean, you're a fighter, Melissa. You're actually building for others. You're building for yourself. And I've seen that you have many companies behind your belt as well that you've built.
Yeah.
So let's go into each of those amazing companies and tell us how they connect together. And then let's go into venturing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that you asked when I jumped into my story was, what kind of made you put all these things together?
Yeah.
I started out my career in like supply chain and procurement, just because I got a job in that area. I got a scholarship in college. They were gonna give me a job to study it, and it was like, at that time, I just think like the times were different. At that time, it was like, where can I get a job? It wasn't about like passion and change the world. And it was like, where can I get a job? How much money can I make? I'm tired of being poor. I want to travel the world. I want to do these things. Maybe I was weird. I don't know, but I didn't have these big altruistic things. It was like, okay, business, I need to make money. Fine, I'll do that. They're hiring. Company looks okay. Again, maybe I had the wrong lens. That's okay.
No, I mean, I think, think about us who younger people, Maslow hierarchy of needs. The baseline is money, food, shelter, right? And so I think all of us, as we went into a career, it was
I had to have that. I didn't have this like, parents paying for everything or anything like that, So I got this job. I was in, negotiating contracts all the time, and I had some really great experiences doing that. I fell into kind of marketing, procurement, and agency management. I knew it wasn't what I was born to do, but I was good at it. I could do it in my sleep. Sometimes I could do my job with like 20% of my effort, and then I just messed around doing all the other stuff I wanted to do in the other, portion. And granted, I would raise my hand. I would volunteer for things. I'd do extra stuff. I could do it in my sleep. And I was like, oh man, I'm keeping the train on the tracks. I got this really cool new job at Microsoft, managing Microsoft's creative agencies, and I was working on the Empowering campaign. I did the operation, so it wasn't like I was like in the creative aspect. I was kind of like a hidden figure in the trenches, making sure things worked. And I realized I was on the sidelines of people driving impact. People taking it upon themselves to create new business opportunities that solved problems that made the world a better place. And I was sitting back here helping an engine that helped the creative people tell the stories about the, impactful people or people of impact, people of change. And when the scene with my daughter, popped up, and the computers and the, digital skills, I realized this is my chance to be, an empowerer, of others. This is my chance. And it wasn't that I did it to be in a video, because that's not how it was. It was more like they inspired me to do something, different. And I realized what it did for me as I got a new job at Microsoft building, as an impact investor, storyteller, I realized that I love digital skills and the aspect of like getting people skilled up, education. I loved, startup enablement. I loved that. I love the global nature of working in like all the nooks and crannies of the world. And I realized I didn't have to choose between enabling youth and women and startups and education and, something that I was just good at because I worked on Wall Street and I built, a internet bank through the financial crisis. I could bring all these things together. There's no reason why I should think that I can't combine them all together. Yeah. At first, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but now I've found this way of making it happen. So, yeah.
So as you're making it happen, and as we grow in our careers, for me, my strengths were, I was fortunate. I went to school and I came to the UK and I did my MBA, and then I decided to go into insurance because I thought people in banking were actually nutters. And and I felt that the insurance people were actually quite nice, as simple as that. So I fell into insurance. But I would say after a period of time, I was able to do strategy. And then, from strategy, you go into executing the strategies, and then you are going in value proposition and business models and all those things. And then operational cost savings. So you're actually touching different things.
You're using it probably in a big company and applying it to a big company and realizing, wait a second, this is really just building, new companies that can be applied there as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And so you start realizing that all those skills you have acquired actually are the same skills you need to build a business, to provide advice.
Very similar to my journey. Very similar.
Right, to pitch, right, and to pitch to investors, and to pitch, sales to companies, and teaching those businesses how they have to be led first rather than product led, all this stuff. But what I've seen is you have also, combined the skills learning in addition to your venture building capability now. So how did you fall into venture building?
Yeah. So I became passionate about, digital skills initially, became an impact investor at Microsoft. And I realized that I ran an accelerator, and there, I was doing that. I created another accelerator at IBM, and I realized that there was this fundamental disconnect and kind of this bifurcation of duties across a founder value chain, right? So let's kind of think about how your typical traditional founder does things. All right. I know that's stereotypical. Not everybody does things like this, but let's just, kind of think about the 80% or whatever the percentage is. You've got a founder or group of founders. They have an idea. Okay. Then they say, we need to go build a thing. And, you know what? Let's build the thing. And you know what? We don't know how to do this piece, or we're not the best at that piece. We need to build a team. And I'm not saying that these happen in a linear fashion. I'm going to say it in a linear fashion, but I don't mean it to. It's just, I can't talk over myself multiple times. So there you go. So founder has idea, founder tries to build product. Well, we can't do this. We need insight, whatever it is. They get team. Maybe there's some product market fit conversations that happen in there. Maybe not. Maybe they're too caught up in their own head to think, oh no, we know what everybody wants. This is perfect. They think they're the customer, right? Maybe they haven't even thought about how much money they're going to make out of it. They haven't maybe thought even about, am I solving a problem? Do customers want my solution, and are they willing to pay for my solution? Yeah. And then they're like, oh shit, we have no money. If we're going to take this forward, we have no money. So we need to go out and get, money. We need to get capital. And because we need that capital to finish our product, to hire our team, because how are we going to service all those customers if we don't have these things, right? Meanwhile, you have an incubator that's like, let me help you build your idea. And the incubator doesn't talk to the accelerators. Like, they don't share deal flow, right? They don't talk to each other. Sometimes they don't even know each other exists, right? Oh no, I'm not an incubator, I'm an accelerator. Okay, so the accelerator comes in. Okay, I want to have like somebody with an MVP. I want you to have paying customers, or whatever they want. Okay, fine. So you come into the accelerator. Wait a second. They're not talking to the venture capitalists or the people with the money. So you finish your accelerator. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And you finish that and you're like, okay, like I just did an investment readiness accelerator. Okay, all right. Okay, now I'm gonna go out and pitch to VCs. Wait, I'm a woman. Oh, I'm a founder of color. Holy shit! There's only 2% of funds available to me, and I'm not part of the good old boy network. I'm from Nebraska, and I don't know anybody, and I'm not cool. So I looked at that and I thought I was part of a broken system, and I perpetuated that broken system.
And we are,
without knowing.
Yeah, we are still new when you think about it. And, I ran the acceleration program, and in, the early stage of acceleration for me, which was in 2015, I did 5 years of acceleration, and I work with amazing corporations. And what I realized at some point is, you have all those corporations. So it was industry accelerator. The industry players would play with our startups, and the startup would go into an acceleration to validate, product market fit. However, I would see very few actually going to commercialization. And so my passion right now is it's fine, right? But I only work with insurance companies, for example, who are really profound around commercializing with startups and implementing, industrializing, and democratizing those techniques.
That's awesome. I think we're both like kind of peas of a pod, or birds of a feather, or whatever you want to call it. Two peas in a pod. That was what it's supposed to be. I'm of the same mindset, and actually, I think we're still, me and my partner, are still working on kind of the narrative of how to demystify what a venture studio is, or what a venture builder does, versus a VC, an accelerator, and incubator. We kind of combine all those things together. However, we have kind of realized that a lot of times when a startup approaches us, that startup kind of has this idea that I need $1 million in seed funding, and that's my focus, and I want $1 million. And if I don't get that $1 million, but they're not focused on, sometimes they're not even focused on anything. They think that they don't have, and they don't necessarily look, I'm not saying this is always the case, but how do I get access to paying customers right now with what I have, assuming they've got some kind of MVP. Obviously, if you've got nothing, that's a different problem. But a lot of the founders we're talking to have MVPs and are, so focused on going out after funding that they're not necessarily thinking about, well, what if I were to flip the conversation and focus on partnerships and growth from a customer acquisition perspective. So we jump in and we focus on growth from what I would consider three perspectives. One, technical enablement, and so that's how do we get speed to market? How do we give you a bench of the 2,000, 1,500, highly skilled, computer engineer, software engineers and data scientists that we have available. Here you go, serve it up, package nice. There you go. You don't have to go out and recruit a team right now. Here's your bench. Okay. Obviously, we're not giving 2,000 of them away, and there got to be conversations. So that's one piece. Making sure that we are really thinking about what their business model is. My partner, he knows how to make money. I'm out here running around with my hair on fire and excited about evangelizing and community building and the fluffy side of awesomeness. And he stops me from investing in basket weaving. Now, keep in mind, basket weaving is awesome, but you have to balance, one another. He is often the bad cop, I'm the good cop. But yeah, so we look at it from that perspective, really ask hard questions to make sure that, you're really thinking about monetization. What is the quickest path to revenue? Why do you want to dilute your, why do you want to dilute your own, why? And then lastly, access to partnerships. We kind of like what you were talking about, because at the end of the day, if I look at fintech, I've got something I'm announcing soon. I can't announce it yet, but I will once it's ready, probably beginning of August. We signed an agreement with a very large player. We're going to be doing some of what you're talking about, not in the insurtech space, but another vertical, very similar. How do we bring the ecosystem together with innovation, decision-making, maker roundtables. So your customer, your enterprise customer you want to go into, your startup founder that's been vetted and curated and ready to go into that, organization. And then your tech partner. So you've got your venture builder, your tech partner, you've got your, it's like this really nice, like, I don't know, sandbox of players, if you will. So yeah.
Super cool. Actually, this is very similar. And that has always been my vision of what I wanted to build in the UK. Partly, I talk a lot about digital ecosystems. You can't build companies of tomorrow without digital ecosystems.
I know, right?
The problems to be solved as well. What I found is, when you give a blank sheet of paper to corporation, because funding often comes from corporation, they do not always have the ability to do with blank sheet of paper. So, for example, I'm doing a lot of work around commercial sustainability. I call it commercial because commercial and insurance plus sustainability. Think about flooding, wildfires. Those big events. Which means that you have to talk to the corporations. Think about Total, Shell. You have to talk to the fossil fuel companies. Then I'm looking at it from a risk perspective. So you have to build the ecosystem around the startup able to solve for those problems, and then bring the insurance companies to actually start identifying the emerging risk and therefore the emerging products They should
Well,
be
it's like,
building.
it's kind of like taking it and, it's like a different way of thinking about design thinking and human-centered design. It's, you understand what's happening, you understand the pain points, you understand what, are the potential opportunities, because you really have brought people together.
Yeah.
And, you're kind of bringing people together who don't normally talk to one another. Because I think, when I talk to, kind of the different, large banks, for example, and I'm talking even to the head of innovation of this large bank, they struggle getting access to the latest and greatest of whatever. And they often go to conferences or they have briefings so that they can understand, what startups are, I don't know, the sexy startups right now. How do you weed through that to know what am I missing and what innovation should I be thinking about that is proactive and forward thinking? And by the way, I don't think I can build it. Who already has this, or who can build it for me?
And you don't have to start from scratch, right? I often say
That's right.
to corporations, my motto is, build together, don't build internally, right?
Yeah,
Partner,
co-create.
right?
Yep.
Co-create, because it's already somewhere on the shelf. And now
Yeah.
everybody's asking about generative AI and I guess prompt and chat GPT and stuff like that, which is not the problem they are trying to solve for. Is now we're bringing technology to the business. And so what is a business proposition is going to look like in the future?
Yeah.
What do you think are the challenges then when you look at the world of venture building and corporate venturing?
I think it's a few different things. I think, for me, I think the biggest thing that I'm working on now is changing the narrative around, there's always room for bringing in capital. Okay. There always is. But I think that right now there is this fundamental belief that a founder has, that I need capital to grow. I need capital to get customers. I need capital to da 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 da. Now, don't get me wrong. If you haven't, earned a salary in a year, your Maslow hierarchy of needs are kicking in, and it's saying, I need a place to live. I need to eat. What the heck am I doing? I need funding. So, I don't want to give absolutes, but I think there are, there are often ways of rethinking things. So, yeah, I would say that's number one. I would say, kind of number two is, and I think this is probably relevant for highly regulated industries or, places where you've got, significant amount of, data, is really making sure that, the fintechs or the financial services companies, the banking company, the banks, insurance companies, healthcare companies, whatever, they've understood, regulatory requirements for a very, very long time. Now, not everybody follows everything as they should. Okay, fine. But it's something that is a priority within the industry, right? And I think sometimes when you have, the newer fintechs coming on board and aren't, think they might be, aware of, data protection, privacy, and security, and what it takes to get on board, it's hard to get, number one, to get your attention, get the bank's attention, let's say. Not only get that attention, but be able to sell in. And then once you get to a yes, going through the process of onboarding. For any of us who went through, like me, who spent time in, vendor onboarding and like kind of procurement and compliance, it's a process. Now, I know that, startups like Tech Passport are looking to, streamline that. So they're, kind of fintechs out there looking to do that. But, big challenge. You got a solution, you got a problem. How do I let you know that it exists? There's a lot of noise out there.
Yeah.
Right.
100%. And I'm thinking about your procurement comment, Melissa. Some of even the corporation I work with, now they're asking you for your sustainability strategy. So imagine a startup who are actually going to sell to a corporate and have not thought about their ESGs. They're
like, wait, what a second. What do I have to do? What does that have to do with me? Yeah.
Exactly. So when you look at where we are going and what the future holds for you, and the ventures you are supporting and helping become bigger, better commercialized and monetizable solutions, where do you see the world going?
Yeah, so if I kind of look into the future, I would love to see, situations where, my founders raise a shit ton of money. They become, these amazing solutions that are, kind of powering the world's whatever, changing this, that, and the other, making the world a better place, but also making money at the same time. Naturally, I would be, lying if I didn't say that I want to be comfortable and I want my family to be comfortable. But, I believe in doing well while doing good, meaning, again, making money, making the world a better place. I'd love to see, situations where, I'm part of solving some of the biggest and most pressing issues, of our time. Do I solely, focus on just social impact? No, but it often weaves in. And, I don't think that I'd be able to do the thing without having some social impact things that I work on. So I look forward to a situation in the future where, women like me don't look back on the time that they took that, computer science course and dropped out because everyone didn't look like me. And then I decided that's not for me. And later on, I'm like, wow, I could have done that. I look forward to a time where, again, whether, it's a woman or a person of color, it doesn't matter. Any underserved and underrepresented community member who doesn't have access to capital, doesn't have a seat at the table, that there's a bit of a more level playing field. I believe access to funding and how decisions are made are broken. And I want to blow them all up. I don't know if I'm in a position to do that. And I don't know if I'm necessarily working on that specifically, but it's something that I hope changes in the future.
Dr. Melissa Sassi, I need to ask you the question, a tech question around generative AI. You mentioned social innovation. Where do you see generative AI is going to take us or not? And where is the opportunity for us all with all this new stuff?
Where I'm focused on from a technical perspective is really around AI. That's where I'm focused on is the role that data analytics, AI, what role that can play in driving, solving pain points and creating opportunity. For example, I don't have this, it's not public yet, but, it's this kind of fast pass to AI thing that I'm working on. So don't you steal my name because I'm going to be really mad. That's not for you. That's for everyone.
Yes.
And maybe that's not going to be the name, but it's kind of this fast pass to AI. Because one of the things that I realized is, I've spent a lot of times in the startup community, but as of late, a lot of people with small and medium-sized businesses for the SMB market have been reaching out to me saying, "What can AI do for my company? I don't even know who to talk to. Like, what is this AI thing?" And so we've just started having conversations with these like small and medium enterprises, and we started putting together these little packages of, access our devs. We'll come in, we'll do a kind of process overview, figure out what are you working on? What are you doing? And so there's a little fee associated with that. And then we'll look and say, okay, how do we help you? I know it's not specifically, social impact, but if I think about innovation and AI, that's one specific thing that I'm doing. I would say on top of that, it's, kind of going back to the basics, and you cannot have a smart consumer who's safe and secure, or an innovator, a creator, a maker, a doer, an influencer, unless people have skills. Half of the world now does not have access to the internet, a little bit, less than half. Young people are not being skilled, appropriately when it comes to whether that's just being safe and secure online or knowing how to code. My dissertation for my PhD was focused on the digital inclusion of the underserved and its role in solving the most pressing issues of our time. And I was part of creating the world's first digital, the world's first standard for what it means to be digitally skilled and ready. And there are a lot of different components to that. And I believe we will not have the social innovation, the technical innovation, the conversation around what tech can do and how can it help the invisible woman, the woman at the bottom of the pyramid, unless people understand how they can safely and securely transition from consumers of technology, if they are even at that level, to the creators, makers, and doers empowered by technology.
Yeah. You know, I spend a lot of time during my weekend to play with generative AI tools, so try everything
Yeah.
just to get
Yeah.
my head around it and how, and you know, there's a
Yeah.
lot happening. It's just, you have to
Yeah.
bucket them. And what is for me missing is, okay, how we are going to get our orchestrator, right? Where you can bring
Yeah.
your own content and your own IP, and then
Yeah.
the tools actually accurately analyze what you have put in to provide you with some interesting answers. I think there's still work to be done here.
There is lots of work to be done. I mean, as we talk about the, the shift from Web 2 to Web 3 and, metaverse and blockchain and all that kind of stuff, I look forward to a decentralized world. I look forward to a world where, a company is not controlling what I see and read, that there are many different social, changes that, can occur, financial issues to solve, the monetary system. Well,
and it's exciting. I mean, we are in a great time, right? It's exciting, all those things we can do. And then it's being focused around the few and actually having an impact around the few things we can do. Would like you to give some recommendation now. Recommendation to the investors, recommendation to the corporates. What can they do to embrace, even right now, right? We have high interest rate, high inflation. People are keeping budget. You mentioned capital constraints. What needs to happen to actually unlock the future?
Yeah. So I would say on the founder side, I would think about, how much emphasis are you putting on, access to capital versus, speed to revenue? Okay. I know it's a scary thing, especially when you're bootstrapped and you're hungry, you're living in a squalor. I get it. So that would be kind of one recommendation. On the capital, on the investor side of things, I would really think about, how can you sit down and how can you listen to more female founders and more folks who are, women founders or founders of color who are out there in the trenches doing the thing. How do you make sure that you've got this balanced deal flow that's coming to you? And I know it's hard because you're getting things served up to you and you've got X amount of time for whatever. And most importantly, be nice. I can't tell you how many situations I've been in where, investors haven't been nice to me. And not that you need to stroke my ego and, treat me like a puppy and give me a new rainbow and a sucker, or a lollipop. But, I think we spend enough time at work, and a lot of times, founder is very emotionally connected to, their thing. And I think we all could be nicer, when we say no, when we pass, when we give feedback, so there you go.
I definitely agree. There is this view still today where investors' questions tend to be biased toward negativity towards women and positivity and growth towards men's, and it's an unconscious bias. And I know we do have our own unconscious biases, Melissa. But yes, in general is, being respectful. Let's have a debate. I said, I don't mind having a debate. I ask for respect and kindness. There's no point of being nasty. There's so much pain happening already out there.
I mean, I was watching like some kind of back and forth, where I've seen like things like, I don't do phone calls.
I don't do phone calls. People know I don't do phone calls. WhatsApp me and I may call you back, but I don't do phone calls.
All right. But I mean, also, I think when somebody responds to you like that, is that who I want in my life? Is that who I want investing in my product and driving my direction? Maybe that kind of response makes you believe that, hey, wait a second, you know what? No, that's not what I want to do. So perhaps that helps you get to the answer quicker. I don't know. Everybody's got their style, I suppose.
So my last question, Melissa, is what would be your word of wisdom? And maybe looking at, the beautiful story you gave us earlier during our discussion, if you look at small Melissa and now looking at current Melissa, what would we tell her?
So gosh, I would tell her a lot. And I think part of it would be like, believe in yourself. Like you can do this, and you do not need external validation to say, yes, you're doing a good job, scratch me behind my ears. Yes, you matter. Yes, you're good enough. And, yes, you can do all of these big things. I would probably also talk to her about, even listing out the things that she could do. There were many things I didn't even know were accessible to me until like they came. Funny enough, I didn't even know I was smart. I know it sounds stupid, right? I didn't even know I was smart until I was in my 30s and somebody sat down and said, was a friend of mine who worked on Wall Street at the same time as me. And I'm working at Goldman Sachs. Like I made it through like the gauntlet of Goldman Sachs. I didn't even know I'm smart, what the hell? So he said to me, I don't think you know this, and I'm going to set you down and tell you this directly. I don't think you know how smart you are. I'm like, all right, what do you mean? I felt like shy, because in reality, I want to cry because I'm like, oh, good. It's like, I would appear sometimes like I'm super confident, but in reality, it was kind of like a big mess and a ball of yarn in here. And he's like, let me tell you, you're one of the smartest people I know. And here is the evidence of that. And here is why I'm saying this. From that moment forward, whatever his style was, whatever he did, or whatever, it was like I knew it, I believed it, and I don't know what that trigger was, but imagine, you go until you're 30 some odd years old, not realizing like you're smart or whatever. Like, what the heck are we doing? So that's what I would do.
I mean, I know you've already written, I think, 2 books, but one thing I'm going to say now is I've met a lot of wonderful people with ADHD. And I know you guys are the smartest people I've seen on this planet. I wish I had ADHD because I want a super brain like yours.
It's a maniac. It's so insane. It's so insane.
Incredible.
I didn't know I had ADHD until like maybe like 8 years ago. I always felt weird. I always felt different. I always felt disconnected from others. Like I had a lot of friends. Don't get me wrong. I was always a networker. I was always surrounded around friends. But I always felt like I was a little bit on the outside of things. And once I realized that I had ADHD and I started reading about these things that ADHDers have or neurodivergent folks have, I was like, holy smokes. Like there are other people like me that exist in the world. Like I never could figure out, why do I always lose my keys? Why am I terrible at paying my electricity bill?
Yeah.
There's a reason. So it gave me a lot of hope and understanding, I guess.
I admire you, Melissa. So
thank you.
I want to say thank you so much for this wonderful discussion.
Thank you.
And well, I'm sure I will welcome you back on the podcast, but I cannot wait to see and hear what people are going to say when they listen to this great
Same.
So
yes, thanks again for having me.
My pleasure. If you like this podcast, subscribe now, share with your friends, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a 5-star review. Also, if you want to cover any specific subject with me, contact me on Instagram under Sabine VdL Officials or LinkedIn under Sabine VdL. Thank you.